India, often lauded by its netizens as the world's largest democracy and a growing economic power that rivals China and the US, presents a paradox that is as glaring as it is unsettling. While there are some nice-looking skyscrapers that pierce the skies of Mumbai and Bengaluru, and the nation boasts of some technological advancements, a vast majority of its population grapples with poverty and deprivation. Who cares about the shiny skyscrapers and luxury cars if you live in a slum with no electricity and plumbing? You see, the netizens leave out something when they shout about how great India is, and that is the economic truth about India, about how 90% of Indians have an average income lower than the average income of Africa, or how the top 10% holds the vast majority of India's wealth, or how hundreds of millions have no access to toilets. This video delves into the stark realities of India's wealth and income disparities, exposing the chasm between the opulent few and the impoverished many. In the contemporary Indian economic landscape, the top 10% of the population commands a staggering 77% of the nation's wealth, according to Oxfam. This concentration of wealth is not merely a statistic, but a reflection of systemic structures that perpetuate inequality. The richest 1% alone hold over 40% of the country's total wealth, underscoring a disparity that rivals and perhaps surpasses colonial-era economic divides. I understand the British were bad, but they mainly allied with the various nobility and princes who were already rich and held all the wealth. You cannot blame the British for stealing all the wealth when your own ruling class hoards 77% of the nation's wealth. Also, it's been almost 80 years since independence. You guys have to let it go and fix your country. The proliferation of billionaires in India is emblematic of this skewed distribution. From a modest count of 9 in 2000, the number surged to 119 by 2017, with an estimated 70 new millionaires emerging daily between 2018 and 2022, according to various sources. Let's be real, most of these billionaires are corrupt and devious, such as Ambani or Adani. And let's not forget to mention the enablers, Modi and his BJP buddies. This meteoric rise in wealth among the elite starkly contrasts with the stagnation experienced by the majority. Before we continue, please like, comment and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. While the affluent bask in luxury, the bottom 90% of India's population faces economic hardships that are both severe and persistent. A report by Oxfam highlights that 670 million Indians, constituting the poorest half of the population, witnessed only a 1% increase in their wealth in 2017. Moreover, approximately 63 million individuals are pushed into poverty annually due to healthcare costs, equating to nearly 2 people every second. In terms of gross national income, or GNI per capita, India's figures are disheartening. The per capita net national income for 2022 to 23 stands at just under $2,000. In comparison, Sub-Saharan Africa's GNI per capita was reported at $1,638 in 2022, and this region is widely regarded as the poorest in the world. Now here comes the kicker. If you take off the top 10% of Indian earners, the GNI per capita drops massively to just under $800, which is half of Sub-Saharan Africa's figure. Such comparisons underscore the economic challenges faced by the majority in India, despite the nation's overall growth narrative that the angry netizens love to use. India's impressive GDP growth rates often mask the underlying inequalities. While the economy expands, the benefits are disproportionately reaped by the affluent. The reliance on GDP as a sole indicator of progress overlooks the disparities in income and wealth distribution. This growth model, favoring capital over labor, exacerbates existing inequalities and marginalizes vast sections of the population. Sure, they are the 5th largest economy by nominal GDP and the 3rd largest by PPP. But looking by per capita, they are 139th and 119th respectively. That is to say, they have a tiny middle and upper class and a massive poverty class that bulks up the GDP numbers. Around 80% of Indians live under the poverty line, according to the World Bank 2024. Also, the PPP number is heavily inflated because it measures a basket of goods that you can buy in your own country and currency. And guess what? The Indian basket of goods is much different to the Chinese or American basket of goods. For example, they can buy their own crappy Tejas fighter jets that crash every month for cheap rupee prices, which distorts the PPP GDP measurement. The persistence of inequality in India is not merely a byproduct of economic forces, but also of policy decisions. Tax structures that favor the wealthy, inadequate social safety nets, and underinvestment in public services contribute to the entrenchment of disparities. The lack of progressive taxation and the prevalence of tax evasion among the elite further diminish the state's capacity to address inequality. This is not by accident. The government that came before Modi's BJP managed to lift 140 million people out of poverty. The tax structure was fairer, but as soon as Modi came into power, he showered his billionaire friends with tax exemptions, smashed the media, and cut public funding for many services. He claims that his priority is the everyday people of India, but his actions speak louder than words. Adani and Ambani thank him for his loyalty and friendship. Beyond economic metrics, the ramifications of inequality permeate the social fabric of India. Disparities in access to education, healthcare, and employment opportunities perpetuate cycles of poverty. Social mobility remains limited, and the aspirations of the marginalized are often stifled by systemic barriers. Such conditions not only hinder individual potential, but also pose challenges to social cohesion and democratic ideals. This is essentially what the caste system does to Indian society. It makes hundreds of millions of people unable to progress in life as they are always deemed an underclass. And there we have it. Addressing India's wealth and income problem will be a mighty challenge, and Modi and the BJP are not making it any easier. They represent the top 10% who thrive on hating minorities and outsiders and hoard the wealth and high-paying government positions, which shows up in the statistics. The bottom 90% continue to be crushed under this economic weight, and doubly so by the caste system. They make less than Sub-Saharan Africa and live in squalor. Most of them live under the poverty line. India's GDP figures are heavily misleading. Modi just published whatever cow dung sales figures he wants to make himself look good, but he doesn't care about the inequality of it all. Government policy regarding taxation only exacerbates this problem, as Modi wants to enrich himself and his pals at the expense of the nation and over 1 billion people. It's a broken country, held together loosely and ready to shatter at any given time. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching.